begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is Chris, aka Starrapter, here on the Starrapter YouTube channel for Outer Rim Transmission, episode number 82. I'm joined by Ben this week. How's it going, Ben?
Good. I'm proud to announce I'm joining the whole iPhone family, so now I'm part of that crowd.
Boo! Android for life.
Yeah, we'll see how this goes. But no, my week was pretty good overall. I'd say just a pretty good normal week. Lifting, working on trying to stick to dieting. It's obviously getting harder as like the holiday seasons and the colder weather starting to kick in. There's more like people making homemade foods and stuff, and so it's definitely a tougher time in terms of dieting. So yeah, I can say I did pretty good on it this week, and I'm just working on it, trying to stick to it. Between that and then just having a good time with all this Star Wars content lately.
Yeah, we got Thanksgiving coming up here in the States in under 2 weeks' time. So I've already just got word from my Thanksgiving arrangements happening earlier today. So yeah, we're getting near that point where we just eat like just nothing's gonna come the next day. Like tomorrow we're gonna die.
Yep.
We're gonna eat as much as we humanly can. That's how we do it here in the States. Forgot to mention this off the top. Today's video, we're going to be going over, or audio if you're listening, we're going to be going over Andor Season 1, Episode 10, titled No Way Out, or One Way Out. We're also going to be talking about a brand new announcement that just came out like an hour ago as of recording this on Friday. A Studio Ghibli production, Grogu and the Dust Bunnies, is coming out early tomorrow morning, so be on the lookout for that. We also have official Acolyte news and an official little blurb about what the show is about, and much, much more on this week's episode. So I was strolling around New York City with my girlfriend. We were in Brooklyn, in this Dumbo region, which is right between the bridges of Manhattan and Brooklyn. There on the water's edge, just a nice little kind of community and everything. And we're just walking around, and nothing says Christmas like an AT-AT blow-up thing that has like antlers and a red nose. So I was like, yep. Yeah, I've never seen this Christmas decoration, but it was literally like a big ass inflatable AT-AT that had to be like 10 feet high in front of like some bar. I was like, yeah, this is something interesting here.
Oh yeah, you have to love seeing like those type of like Star Wars like Christmas themed things. Whether it be like those big like blow up AT-ATs, like you said, I've seen those before, or like for us over here, we were like taking stuff down out of the attic and whatnot, getting ready because in a few weeks we'll all start to be like putting up our trees and everything. And I had plenty of Star Wars ornaments like I saw like already, whether it be like the old classics. Like I have ones. Heck, I was looking at them over the week. Ones that were literally from the late 90s, like the old
Ooh.
Phantom Menace ones, like those classic ones from that era, whether it be like some of the Phantom Menace characters or, some of the classic like Hallmark, like the really realistic like Stormtroopers or Leia's or Boba Fett's or Luke's, like those type of ones, like the big glass heads. Like I was looking at some of those. Yeah, I have plenty of those type of ornaments, and once we like start getting them more and more out, I'll have to bring them on the show and have a little show and tell.
Yeah, speaking of ornaments, there's a lot of good ones coming out this year from Hallmark.
Yep.
Well, they're already out. I went into the store. I forgot to show this one off. I got a Luke Skywalker Mandalorian Season 2 finale chopping a Dark Trooper in half. Like, it's so
that's awesome.
badass. It's probably the coolest looking ornament I have because it's such action based with kinetic. But yeah, you see the torso of a Dark Trooper like on the ground, and Luke has this like heroic stance. It's like, oh man, I have to buy this. But they have other ones. They have Grogu and Mando with Grogu's helmet, with Mando's helmet off. They have Obi-Wan Kenobi from Revenge of the Sith. They have the Razor Crest, and they have some other original trilogy ones out for this year, just this year alone. So nice. I'm probably gonna have to go back and get the Obi-Wan Kenobi one. I don't think I have any Obi-Wan Kenobi Hallmark. I usually get like multiple a year because It's
Yeah.
part of like one of my traditions. My mom usually gets me one, but I couldn't even wait. I was like, I seen that Luke one, and as I walked in, I was like, I'm buying this now.
Oh yeah, those are the best. That's kind of the tradition we have as well. Like my mom or dad, they'll get me, or my sister, they'll like surprise me with a random Star Wars ornament. I mean,
Mm,
I've gotten plenty. Don't get me wrong. Everyone always forgets like what ornaments they got, and like I've gotten so many Darth Vader helmets. It's not even funny over the
oh
years.
yeah.
Um, Between those and then one of the coolest ornaments I have actually. I'm talking about ornaments I saw over the weekend over the week when we were getting those out. So it's like the size of like a mini, like a toy. Like it's probably like the size of
Mm.
like your fist, I would say, almost the size of your fist. And it's Darth Vader's TIE fighter. And the cool thing is, it has a thing underneath it where you can put a Christmas light in it. So like what I do is like whenever I hang that one up, I make sure to put it on one of the red lights.
Oh
So then
yeah.
the cool thing is like it lights up the cabin of the TIE fighter, and you
Mm.
actually see Darth Vader inside the lit up cabin, on the ornament. So it's pretty
Wait,
cool.
is this a newer one that came out in the last couple of years?
No, this one's probably like 20. It's around Revenge of the Sith time when that I
Oh,
got that one.
okay, because they have a couple out recently where it's like they have a special power adapter, and it's got like
Yep.
different connectors, and you connect like your Star Destroyer and your TIE Advance, and like they have a scene that plays out between them all. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool. I
Yeah.
just love that's one thing I always enjoy so much like about the holiday season is like these type of fun like Star Wars themed, like things.
Oh, hell yeah. Star Wars and Christmas goes together so well ever since 2015 with The Force Awakens, and
Yep.
it's been that way ever since this year. It's not going to be so much of a Star Wars Christmas because there's not going to be anything on at that hour or that time of year, or it's gonna be more like an Avatar Christmas, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean Avatar, there's some rumors about maybe a trailer sometime in December for Mando. We'll see. So, there's a chance for that, but yeah, it's going to be more of an Avatar Christmas for sure.
Oh yeah, so we have in the chat Erin Daly. She's saying, I love Studio Ghibli movies. I'm looking forward to seeing the short, so we'll talk about that in a few moments. But for those of you that are watching, thanks for watching. Leave a comment down if you aren't watching this live, or after the fact, you can go ahead and send us an email at outerrimtransmission@gmail.com. We go live every Friday night at 9 o'clock Eastern time, and we also have this recording up later on for you to download for your travels, usually on Monday mornings. So getting into it, our week in Star Wars complete, unless you have something else to say.
No, I mean that was pretty much
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
pretty much my week in Star Wars,
yeah.
like the Christmas ornament stuff, and that was pretty much it. I was like, hey, gotta talk about this on the podcast because it's that time of year, and inevitably, when it comes to Star Wars, I'll just add this as well. Like it is one of the most fun time of year. I feel like for me personally as a fan, I'm sure our listeners can relate too, because whenever you go to the family events, like you're always the Star Wars person, and like everybody's like, "Oh, did you check out this new Star Wars blah 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 or whatever?" Like there's always someone there talking about Star Wars to you because like you're the Star Wars person in the family, and that's like
Mm-hmm.
always me. Like, I'm always the Star Wars person. Like it's like last year, I literally got three Grogu's, as our listeners can remember.
Yeah.
I got three Grogu's last year, and then we got so it's just always a fun like Star Wars conversation around the holidays. Like I always have a good time with that, just because like to me anyways, Star Wars is a nice like it's kind of like sports. Like you can talk like if you're a fan of the NFL for example, like you can talk NFL football with anybody. Like
Mm-hmm.
any NFL fan doesn't matter who they are, how old, what gender, what race, whatever. Like you can talk NFL with anybody. And like that's kind of how Star Wars is. Like you can talk Star Wars with anyone. It's like at a family gathering, it's like, hey, anybody who old, young, whatever, like you can talk Star Wars stuff with anybody. And that's always one of the most fun parts for me anyways, is kind of like being that Star Wars person in the family.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Sometimes it's actually too much because they're pointing out something, and I'm just like, yeah, I get it, guys. I get it. I'm a Star Wars guy. I don't like just Star Wars. Okay, I like other things too every once in a while.
Oh yeah,
But
I mean,
yeah,
we all have been there. Like everybody, like you, me, our listeners. I'm sure, like if you're listening to a Star Wars podcast, you're that Star Wars person in your family probably. So yeah, I'm sure we've all been there with family and friends. I mean, like I said before, like I've had relatives put up our podcast actually in the background of some
oh
of our
yeah,
family events. So that's always great. But we're like the Star Wars people, and it's fun, and we always have a good time with it, and that's kind of just always like a tradition for me is like talking Star Wars with family on the holidays coming up.
yeah, heck yeah. So we have a couple releases this week. They're both from the High Republic, brand new era of Star Wars storytelling. First one's a big one. We have a big reference art book here. We have Star Wars: The Art of the High Republic, written by Kristen Baver. This thing is awesome, man. I don't know about you. I don't know if you've ever gotten any of the Star Wars movie art books, have you? Like for Rogue One or Force Awakens or anything like that?
Yeah, I have the original like concept like the art books from the prequel trilogy when they were coming out.
Okay, yeah. I mean, this book is so large, as you see, I'm like struggling trying to get it in the frame without like bumping my mic. But yeah,
that's crazy.
What's really cool about this book is it's almost like a history as well of like the initiation and the process of how they even got this this whole thing off the ground, right? As far as like getting the different writers, getting the art team. They have a cool page in here, which is just everybody's involvement in this thing and their title at Lucasfilm. So they have like all the artists, they have different directors and people that work at Lucasfilm, their names and like what they do there. So it was pretty cool because like there is a lot of people in just a publishing project. Like it almost looked like it was something like you would see basically for a movie, like all these big names. So really awesome artwork, and the large format just really lets the artwork shine. I've never had any of these other art books, but since this is more like a history of the creation of the High Republic, I feel like I had to pick this one up. They even have some tidbits about, this concept, what's really neat is like, for instance, like this character's concept was for this character originally, but then we decided to go with a different concept for that character, but we're using this concept for somebody in phase 2. So there's actually like hints of things happening that we haven't seen yet hidden in this book. So for those of you like me that are looking for every little tidbit, like you're gonna get some nuggets out of this thing that you might actually enjoy. So I have not really dived that far into it. As you see, it was pretty large book as far as not just the size, but like the amount of pages in it. So I'm gonna just kind of go through a little bit every week, and because we do have that book coming out at the end of the month, Star Wars Convergence, which will definitely be a priority for me to get through. So yeah, a lot of good stuff on the horizon. That wasn't the only book that came out for the High Republic. We had the High Republic issue number 2. It's dealing with the people on Jeddah, and a lot of crazy, fun, zany stuff happening there. But highly recommend. What's interesting about this one is it's like they're treating like Jeddah essentially like it's Jerusalem in the modern era, where it's like, Jerusalem has like 3 major religions and they're always fighting over the land and all that. It's kind of the same thing in this. It's like you got your Jedi, but you have the Path of the Open Hand. You have the Disciples of the Wills, like these different like force groups that are claiming the territory, so to speak, and being territorial and bickering against one another while they're there in the same spot. So I have to imagine that's where they kind of created, Captain Scott created that whole thing. So for me to see that like real life kind of mythos being affected in the, the Star Wars fiction of it all is kind of neat.
Oh yeah, I mean, that like goes back to like the original trilogy. Like, George Lucas had so much inspiration from historical events as well as like other things, obviously. And it's just cool seeing like that whole inspiration put into Star Wars, whether it be like the books, like you mentioned with this one, or the movies or shows or games or whatever it may be. Like it's great seeing like that connection, because I feel like even without them directly saying it, you can have that it's like subconscious connection. Like that's why a lot of the stuff resonates with people, because it connects with you without like having to directly say it.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's very very cool, insightful things. So that's what's out this week for Star Wars. Next week we have the beginning of the Hidden Empire, which is maybe Kira from Solo's last stand in Star Wars, because she's going up against Vader and Emperor, and you don't see how that's going to go well if you know what happens later on with Return of the Jedi. They're, spoiler alert, they're still around. So what the hell happens with her? We'll have to read those 5 issues over the next several months to figure that out. So that's what you can look forward to next week. But what you can look forward to tomorrow, oh, look at that segue. We got some really cool stuff that literally just popped up from Twitter accounts, not even on StarWars.com. So bring this back like 2 or 3 days. Actually, I think it was just yesterday. Studio Ghibli, the makers of renowned Japanese animation, they are partnering with Lucasfilm. So they had this short little teaser video on their Twitter account today, and at that point we didn't know what it was going to be. Hell, it could have been an Indiana Jones anime for all we know. But then they posted today a little image on their Twitter with little Grogu. Then, as of 7 o'clock tonight on Friday, they put out a poster for Grogu and the Dust Bunnies. Now, we had heard word of this. I thought it was going to be some YouTube thing. Like, you know, they have the YouTube Kids channel. And I was like, that's why I told you in the chat, I was like, I don't really pay this any mind, because, you know, they put out so much stuff on a Star Wars Kids YouTube channel, which is great. It's not aimed at me, which is why I'm just like, I'm not even going to really talk about it. But the point of this is that, you know, this isn't just any developer, or not developer, but studio. It's like the world's like most respected studio with Japanese animation, and they're putting a little short out tomorrow. I'm going to read from our comments section here from Dark Nerdy Gonzo. Let's not stop short, as strongly rumored, but as a whole damn movie from them. Princess Momoka and Grave of Fireflies for life. So yeah, he's excited for that. And I'm trying to look for something else on Twitter, because all this stuff just broke.
Here's the thing to throw out there. You know what tomorrow is, though, don't you?
Oh yes, like the anniversary, right, of Mandalorian or something.
Yeah, it's the anniversary of the Mandalorian and Disney Plus coming out. So like, you know, I'm sure that. Yeah, think about it. That's probably why they're doing it, because it's the 3-year anniversary of Mando season 1, episode 1.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have the official little tweet from Disney Plus now. They were saying, Discover Zen, Grogu, and Dust Bunnies, a hand-drawn animation by Studio Ghibli, is streaming tomorrow on Disney Plus. That's all we have. They didn't even put up an article on StarWars.com, so they're trying to hold this as close to the chest as they possibly could. I'm just happy that this wasn't something that they just drew out over the next several months. You know, I was expecting they're gonna drag this out. Like, what I was expecting this to be was one of the Star Wars Visions season 2 things, which we know it's not coming out till next spring. And I was like, yeah, they're really getting ahead of this quite early, apparently, because we know that is they're gonna have studios from around the world, not just Japan at that point. So I was like, okay, that's their Japan studio for that. That's safe to assume. But no, this is fantastic.
Oh, for sure. Like, the fact that it's coming out tomorrow is great, because, like, to me, what I actually thought of when I started seeing and hearing buzz about this was, I was like, if this is going to be something, for everyone that's seen Ice Age, I was thinking this was going to be where you're going to have kind of a little mini Grogu marketing campaign, kind of like Ice Age would with the squirrel, and, like, you know, have little tidbits of Grogu over the next few months, like you said, and just drag it out, and then eventually get to the episode or whatever it is that's getting released. I was thinking it was going to get drug out for months and months, but the fact they're just dropping it on us, like, hats off to them. Like, give us more surprises like that. You know, we don't have to have the most, like, spectacular live action big cinematic thing. Like, give us little surprises like this. Like, us as fans, you know, we appreciate it, and I think it should be a lot of fun, personally.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a big proving ground. Since it is a short,
Yep.
we just seen the shorts for Star Wars Tales of the Jedi, which range from 10 to 15 minutes. I'm thinking this thing's probably going to be like 2 or 3 minutes if I'm being honest, because you look at what they did with the Marvel shorts, with the Groot shorts, they're about 2.5, 3 minutes the most. So I'm not expecting anything much more than that. I'm not expecting this to be like blowing anybody's mind. In fact, I don't know much about the history of Studio Ghibli. And I gotta admit something here on the podcast. I've never seen anything with Studio Ghibli. At least I've never sat through something completely in recent years. I might have rented a video from Blockbuster Video like back in 1997 or something and maybe watched some of it as a kid, but recently they have all that stuff on HBO Max. So if it wasn't going to be coming out tomorrow, I would have done my homework and like watched at least one or two of these before this is going to come out. But I'm expecting just like a no narration, no dialogue, just a cutesy little Grogu messing around these dust bunnies, which apparently are from Spirited Away, I think. So from what I've seen on the Twitter for the little amount of research I've done in the last 30 minutes, it looks like these like little creatures on this poster are tied to something. Now, we have some people like Dark Nerdy Gonzo that might actually be able to cue us up on some of that speculation wise. But if that's the case, like, I'm going to assume this is going to be treated like Star Wars Visions, where it's not exactly canon, but it's just like a very stylistic approach for a renowned Japanese studio to do what they want with a very respected and popular character in Star Wars.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, doing it on the anniversary of Mando, they're just pretty much, like you said, they're going to go in and they're going to cute it up with Grogu and the Dust Bunnies. Like that's what it's going to be. And people are probably going to eat it up. Like, we'll see people talking about it, tweeting about it tomorrow and be like, oh, look, it's the 3-year anniversary of Mando, blah, 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 blah. It's so cute. Look how cute Grogu is with these Dust Bunnies. Cute, cute, cute. You're going to see a lot of that, because there'll be a lot of little moments with Grogu, a little, not even a lot, probably a couple little cute moments, and people will eat it up. So I think we'll get something like that for sure. And again, to me, them releasing this also again plays into like some of the stuff we're hearing about a potential trailer in the next month or two. Like, I think this could be maybe the tip of the marketing iceberg for Mando season 3. I think there's a good chance of that being connected to it. So yeah, I think it's going to be, like you said, it'll be a nice few minute short little thing. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes at the very max, like very max. But I don't see it being much more than 10 minutes at the most. I can't hear you, Chris.
Usually Monday it's a slow day in the entertainment industry, but it wasn't that slow this Monday because we got the entire cast, or at least the majority principal cast of Star Wars The Acolyte. We finally got confirmation. I'm reading it from the source itself, StarWars.com. The Acolyte original series cast revealed. The Leslie Headland helmed Disney Plus original series will take fans to the High Republic era. I'm going to just stop right there, seeing how front and center the High Republic is in this announcement gets me so freaking excited. I know, I'm just anything High Republic, you already know I'm going to be shouting from the rooftops like, yes, but the fact that they're tying the next live action Star Wars big series that people are really looking forward to High Republic is freaking awesome. I will continue. This is a Monday to celebrate. Yes, Monday we don't get big news, except this Monday we did. Fantastic. Keeping us on our toes. Anyway, today, Disney Plus announced the cast for The Acolyte, an upcoming Star Wars original series from Lucasfilm. Joining the previously announced Amandla Stenberg from The Hate You Give, our Emmy Award winner, Lee Jung-jae, Squid Game, that confirmation of the rumor we had. We also have Manny Jacinto, another confirmation from 9 Perfect Strangers. Daphne Keane, that was rumored last week, his Dark Materials. And I don't know why they didn't just say Logan, because she's amazing in that. We also have Jodie Turner-Smith, not familiar with her, from Queen and Slim. We have Rebecca Henderson from Inventing Anna, not familiar with her either. Basically, I'm not familiar with any of these people until the last one I'm about to name. Charlie Barnett from Russian Doll, which is interesting because Leslie Headland, that's her show she made, so she brought one of her actors over there. We also have Dean Charles Chapman from 1917, and this is the big one here, shocker, Carrie Ann Moss, a.k.a. Trinity from The Matrix, is going to be in this. Also from Iron Fist. There you go. Iron Fist fans out there, rejoice. I don't think there's many of them. But I just want to stop here before we go any further. What was your reaction to this, man? What is your excitement level? What is your familiarity with some of these cast members?
Yeah, I mean, for starters, I was excited for the number one reason. We say it all the time. You have the platform to do it. The fact that it's coming from StarWars.com and not the Hollywood Reporter, not Deadline, not anywhere else. It's coming from the actual company. I love it. Like, keep giving us information like that. Like, that's all we ask for as fans. Just communicate the info, and look, we're all excited about it. Like, I loved getting a big announcement like that. It was a great way to start the week. And then as for the cast, like you said, the cast has so many great people in it. From like I said, Trinity, from her to Squid Games guy, to obviously Amanda Stenberg being, obviously she's still going to be the Acolyte, I'm sure. And then everybody in between. I mean, Jodie Turner-Smith, I believe she was in Spartacus, actually, if anyone's seen that, like the Spartacus TV show back in the day from like the 2010s. Like, I'm pretty sure she was in that show. If I remember right, I'm pretty sure. But she was really good back then, so she's a good actress. And it's building out to be a really good list of actors on this list, and it's getting me more excited for the show, for the possibilities. Like you said, they put the High Republic out right front and center. I mean, that sets up a lot of different things. I mean, heck, for content creators like you, Chris, like as we lead up to the Acolyte, when we hear more about it, I'm sure you and other content creators will like do like Acolyte, what to know about the High Republic leading into the Acolyte, like those type of videos. Like, we'll be getting plenty of that. So like, it's great for content creators, it's great for the fans, it's great for everybody involved. Like, absolutely loved getting news like this.
Yeah, fantastic. And what I love, and they did this with Obi-Wan, I'm not sure if they did this maybe with The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker. They put out this official banner image, if you will, of the actors and their names. And it's whenever you see that floating around on Twitter, it just warms my heart, my Star Wars loving heart, because it's like, yes, I could put faces to these actors now. And as with all Star Wars things, I always say this, I'd rather go in with a new unknown cast more than anything else, because then I'm able to imprint these legendary, hopefully iconic characters with their characters in Star Wars. Then I'll see these characters. I'll see this dude from the Squid Game. If I ever watch Squid Game, I'll be like, that's the guy from the Acolyte. Or whenever I see Amanda Stenberg, that's the girl from the Acolyte. And then it just becomes like Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford. I also can call him Indy, so it's not just Han Solo all the time. But you know what I mean. So it's cool to get like these actors that probably most of us that are following Star Wars might have not seen them if we're really into the genre stuff. But yeah, I'm excited to get Carrie Ann Moss, such gravitas. She was, the last thing I seen her in was The Matrix 4, which was interesting. I got to rewatch that movie because I was feeling just fine about it, but she did a good job. Other than that, I don't know what else she's been in lately. Definitely Iron Fist was the only other thing I've seen her in. But yeah, it's cool to have another science fiction series crossing over. We also got this behind the scenes picture of Amanda Stenberg and Lee Jung Jae, Leslie Headland just directing her. So we have Leslie Headland, who will also be directing the series pilot, which is pretty nice. I think let's see who's from creator, showrunner, executive producer. So she's writing it. Leslie Headland. We've known that for a while, and they're producing it in the UK. So when I go to the UK in about 5 months' time for Star Wars Celebration, I might have to keep my ear down to the ground to see if there's any place I can maybe visit real quick while I'm out there. Hopefully not too far away from London.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I would definitely, keep your eyes and ears open. Like, there's definitely a chance because, who knows? Or if not, even if you can't like see like where they're shooting the sets and stuff are, like if you can even get a hint on where they shot at before there, like you might be able to check out some of the locations, like because over there's so many different like iconic Star Wars like locations they've shot at and stuff. I mean, heck, say what you want, or say what I want about like The Last Jedi. I'd love to go over to, I think it's Scotland, wherever that island's at.
Oh yeah.
They did the whole stuff with Luke. Like I would love to go to the Octu place. Like that would be amazing.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So the biggest, juiciest thing out of this is we did get our first little blurb, our first synopsis. It's not even really a synopsis. It's a single statement that just tells you so much. So I'm going to read right from StarWars.com here. We have The Acolyte is a mystery thriller that will take viewers into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. Oh my gosh, that's exciting. Just right there. We got another sentence here to get through. A former Padawan reunites with her Jedi Master to investigate a series of crimes, but the forces they confront are more sinister than they ever anticipated. Ben, I'm pretty sure I kind of predicted that's kind of what the show is going to be about for months now.
Yep.
About you got this Sith power that the Jedi in the Phantom Menace are so dogmatic and know that they're always in power. Mace Windu saying, the Sith have been, exterminated for a millennium. They haven't existed. Well, they have been there the whole time. They've been working in pairs, right? The master and apprentice. But there's been instances where people probably have gotten killed. You look at Yaddle that we've seen in Tales of the Jedi. Dooku kills her and then they cover it up somehow. So stuff like that is what I expect out of the show about whoever comes in contact with these people are going to get offed pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 100%. Like, like you mentioned, you talked about, I feel like, gosh, me and Milton, we were talking about it on here months and months ago. It may have been 6 months ago we started talking about this sort of stuff because it just feels like the natural, like, progression of where the show would be at. Like, there has to be some type of, like, Jedi being dogmatic, like some type of a Sith power, people probably kind of like your murder mystery, people getting taken out. Like, I'm sure we're going to get some, like, no-name Jedi get killed and taken out in the first episode, just to, like, show a point to us as the audience, like, oh, man, type deal. And then the fact that it makes me wonder, when it's talking about the Padawan, it makes me wonder if the Padawan is Amandla Stenberg. Like, it makes you wonder, start putting, like, names, like, slotting in names with characters.
Yeah.
Like, just because it's, like, it's got to be her, right?
Yeah, I mean, just look at the image. I think this just spells it out for us right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Lee Jung-jae, Amandla Stenberg. Lee Jung-jae obviously is quite a bit older. He's probably in his 30s or 40s, I'm assuming. She's in her late teens, if not early 20s. And it's saying, former Padawan reunites with her Jedi Master. So at one point he trained her. She is, I guess...
Yep.
Why? I don't know why they worded it that way. A former Padawan. Like, why don't they just say Jedi Knight? She left the Order? That's interesting. Is she one of the Lost 20 that we, see down the road in one of the, High Republic? You got Keeve Trennis that'll eventually leave the Order when we find out that Yoda's talking about that in a Dooku Jedi Lost audio drama from Command Sky. This is what I mean. Like this stuff I'm rambling off the top of my head. This is the kind of stuff that I expect to have references to in this show all over the freaking place. But it's a very interesting thing. Yeah, so I feel like she is the former apprentice. He's going to be the Jedi Master. But what I think is she's going to ultimately be the Acolyte. I think through discovering, and this is where my pure speculation, I've not read anything, so I will preface that, spoilers, I don't know anything so far. What I imagine in my head is she's going to be going around with her Jedi Master to find out what's going on with this, and ends up getting, absorbed into the Sith, essentially like becoming one of them, and then becoming the Acolytes down the road. I mean, we have a character that became like that already with Asajj Ventress. She was a Padawan at one point, and she became an Acolyte underneath Dooku. She was turned to the dark side. So I could see something like that happening. And the show, maybe, I don't know how many episodes or anything, but like maybe that could be the zinger at the end of episode 1 that hooks us immediately. At the end of episode 1, she turns it, or it could be the end of the season. I don't know. But there's so much promise here. So I know my thing is a pretty predictable and easy storyline. There's not much nuance there, but yeah. I mean that's the first thing I thought of.
I mean, it's not even that. I mean, it's not even predictable because like that's like the path. I don't want to sound like we're know-it-all Star Wars fans, but like that's the path like these characters take in the universe. Like whether like if you're a former Padawan, for example, like we can kind of connect the dots here. Former Padawan, maybe kicked out of the order, or isn't accepted to be a knight or whatever. So maybe she's a little bit scorned, and maybe she starts dabbling in the dark side a little bit. Like we can see that progression just based on like our history with Star Wars as a whole, whether it be like with Anakin, for example, or like you said, you got Asajj Ventress, you got different Inquisitors. I mean, look what happened like with Reva. Like Reva felt scorned by the Jedi, basically. So like you have these different things that point to former Padawans or former Jedi like turning. So I think it'll go in that type of a direction. Like you said, that may be our zinger. That might be our hook. Heck, I mean, who knows? Maybe the first episode is kind of like a flashbacky type thing of her leaving, and we get to present day, boom, where she's bad or something. Like, I think it's going to go along those type of lines. And then an interesting point that you mentioned when you were reading those couple sentences was like the growing dark side power or Sith power, however it was worded. Like, to me, that screams, obviously the overall like dark side's growing, like there's more of a dark side threat, but also, I mean, even if it's in the finale, we have to be getting Darth Plagueis in this series. I feel like it has to be coming, like because like this is the perfect era for Darth Plagueis, and the thing is with him, he doesn't have to even overshadow the show. Like, he can make the appearance like the Emperor did, say, in Kenobi, like very, very briefly. And just so we know, boom, he's there. And like, just to confirm, she's like, Amanda Slemberg, for example, is like the Acolyte, the bad person on the block or whatever. And like, I think we're heading in that direction. Just because of the time period. Like, see, that's another thing as well. They've talked about, or, there's been different, like, things out there about the time period of this being, like, 50 to 100 years or 125, whatever the years. Like, it kind of slots in with a young Darth Plagueis, So I feel like there's a chance we maybe even run into a young Plagueis at some point.
Yeah. Going over just my immediate reaction to reading about a former Padawan and Jedi Master, and I'll kind of speak for some of the people out there who might have been a little bit had their expectations subverted with, I don't even know if it's possible because the thing isn't out yet, but I think a lot of us read that title, said the Acolyte, we're following an evil person, we're following a bad person right off the rip, and then you read this and it's like, wait, we're following Jedi again, like, actually, is this like false Chris, advertisement or what?
hold on, can you reread that line? The former Padawan, like, can you reread that? Because I want to double check something.
Yeah, you want me to read from the beginning about the shadowy secrets and all that?
Just the former Padawan sentence, like that. Right. That's that line.
All right, a former Padawan reunites with her Jedi Master to investigate a series of crimes, but the forces they confront are more sinister than they ever anticipated.
Okay, never mind. See, because at first I thought you said a former Padawan and Jedi Master, like meaning they were both former. But so she's reuniting with him as a Jedi still.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Interesting. I don't know then. Because see, at first I thought you were meaning both were former, but never mind. So they're both, or he's a Jedi still, she's former. Like that's
Yeah.
man, that's really interesting.
So I
I'm
feel
excited for
like,
this show.
yeah, I feel like what's happening is Lee Jung-jae, if he is indeed the Jedi Master, is tasked by the Jedi Council to investigate these series of crimes. So he knows that his former Padawan is involved with the unsavory aspects of the Star Wars galaxy. So maybe he looks to her for help. And was like, hey, look, can you do me a favor? Like, can you like take me to one of your like little locations, and like I need to get this information, and in doing so they get enveloped. That's what I'm thinking, maybe, perhaps, because it's interesting with the crimes and all that, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's true. Also,
So
here's another
yeah.
thing too. I was going to ask you. I'm not sure in the in some of the High Republic stuff. I mean, like I said, I've checked out some of it here and there, but I'm not nearly as in depth as you are. Is there any potential High Republic Jedi that could get taken out that might be in this show? Like that might just be thrown in the show as like kind of cannon fodder. Like you could see like someone
Oh yeah.
like a side character or anything.
Oh yeah, there's so many characters that they could throw in here. I mean, granted, so a lot of the characters right now are 200 years before the events, or if this is what I
Oh.
think it is, this might be like 100 years after the stuff we're reading in the High Republic, and I don't know anything
Mm-hmm.
specifically. I remember there was one source book that came out, and it said something like the High Republic era like ended like 90 or 80 years before the Phantom Menace, and there was just like the pre-Phantom Menace era, whatever that's going to be called. I don't know. So, but from what I gathered, like phase one of the High Republic is 200 years before Phantom Menace. So if you have like one of those longer lived aliens, but you're certainly not going to have Avar Chris or
Mm.
Elzar Mann
Yeah.
or Bel Zettifar, like they're all human characters, unless they're like Numenorians from the Lord of the Rings universe, where they can live like 300 years because they have some magic gift from the elves. Like they're going to be dead by then. So that's going to be
Interesting.
interesting. But I like is currently in the High Republic, without spoiling anything, there's these creatures called the Nameless, and they're going around. They've been discovered and are killing Jedi, but they can't be known to exist at phase two because in phase one they're first discovered there, which is after phase two. It's very weird. But anyway, so basically, what I'm trying to get at here is they're sort of telling a similar story in the High Republic to this idea of if you come in contact with one of these nameless creatures and you're at this point in time, you have to be killed because no one is supposed to be alive with this information. So I'm seeing what's happening in the books right now gonna be analogous to the situation of when these Sith Darksiders come into contact with somebody, they got to be killed. So it's gonna be pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, the thing is too with that to keep in mind. I remember like last year or whenever the first stuff initially came out about Leslie Headland heading up this series was I remember she had talked about reading different Star Wars Legends books from back in the day. So like the good thing is with that, not even the fact that she's read some of the Legends books, the fact that maybe she like talk to some of the people there like, hey, what do we have going on right now for like this era of Star Wars? Obviously, like you said, boom, it says the High Republic right in there. So I'm sure she, when she came onto the show, was like, hey, like what's all going on around this time period that we can like get involved and like kind of cross into the story. So like I feel like there's a good chance some of the stuff is going to be included and like pay off.
Yeah, if we see like the nameless creatures that are basically horrifying, where they are these very, they almost look like Cthulhu type, like tentacle feline
Yep.
creatures that can like basically, if you use the Force and are sensitive with the Force, they will basically suck the living daylights out of you to the point where you turn to a pile of ash. And it's very violent how they do that. So if they actually put that on the screen, that'd be incredible. And one last point to make about this is I just can't wait to see more about what's happening with creating a brand new era of Star Wars in live action. Right? We haven't even really seen this in animation yet, this era. So the fact that they are going to be building this from the ground up, they don't have, like Andor or Obi-Wan. It's like, oh, yeah, they can go into Rogue One and take some of the stuff out of storage and use it or whatever movie, right? They have to make everything from ground one, like the Phantom Menace, where they had to make all this. This stuff is going to be taken place so far beforehand. They're going to have no choice but to have an entire prop shop just around the clock, probably just working on this stuff, So I can't wait to see the drastic difference in the aesthetics of a Star Wars show that's set so far before everything we know so far.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like the aesthetics will be interesting. The costume design is going to be really interesting of the characters, the vehicles. There'll obviously be some Easter eggs in the show because like there always has to be with Star Wars. And it's going to be interesting. And then the music is going to be very interesting to see because I feel like the way it's already getting described, I think we're going to get kind of like the mystery, mystery theme music. It's going to be real mysterious and like kind of creepy, kind of like how you have Palpatine's like kind of creepy Sith music. Like it's going to be something, it'll be stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I am very much looking forward to, because we haven't, we have the audio dramas, but I don't think they really have original scores for like the High Republic yet. That's really the only thing we're missing. We're gonna get a video game. We're gonna have every possible outlet except maybe a movie so far, at least, that they haven't touched with this whole publishing program that it first started out as, and it's now branching out. So yes, we don't have a date on when this is coming out. Filming has started, so I don't know how long. I mean, you look at Andor, that was filming for like 2 years, so who knows? They don't even give us a date or any kind of thing. But at the earliest, it would be not until 2024, probably mid 2024 or late 2024 would be my guess. So we got a long wait, but my hope is the next time we'll get an update on this will be a panel at Star Wars Celebration Europe, giving us like maybe for those at least in the audience, like maybe like a little bit of behind the scenes, because at that point they'll be shooting for 5 months, so they'll have plenty of stuff, and they're going to be in the UK, so they could just simply like get all the actors, be like, hey, why don't you come down to London for a day, half a day, and we're going to just talk and show them some behind the scenes stuff, and maybe even have like a little concept teaser or something like that, and be like, oh, here's our villains, here's our, like, they have a good potential to have that as like the headlining feature of Celebration, because at that point the only thing else they'd be promoting would be Ahsoka. Well, obviously that'd be huge. Actually, they want to be having Ahsoka is going to be the big one.
Ahsoka's going to be the tidal wave, though,
and Skeleton Crew, because that's also going to be out.
Yeah. I think the High Republic. I mean, I think you called it. I think we're going to get the High Republic, the Acolyte. Gosh, I'm already calling the show the High Republic, but the Acolyte. I think with Celebration, we're going to get what you just described for the most part. I think. Of course, Ahsoka's going to be the headliner. You'll get, I think, Skeleton Crew, it's going to, I don't know, they have to have an interesting trailer, I feel like, for that. But, like, the Acolyte is more interesting to me than Skeleton Crew just because you're getting involved with the Force, the dark side, like, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, what if we just get, like, you go to Celebration, of course, with you going there, I mean, they might have like a surprise panel with Leslie Headland and like Amanda Sternberg and some of the cast. And, what if they just show us like a little, either a concept poster or even just like, I always go back to the Rogue One, like the generic Rogue One trailer of like Obi-Wan's voice with TIE fighters flying overhead or whatever in the trees. Like that sort of like generic trailer. I think there's like a chance maybe we just get like a little 15-second like generic type trailer. Just because it's like by that time, of course you have Ahsoka, but why not just like, I don't know. To me, I'm just a person like, why not just like give us all of it?
Now that you mentioned Skeleton Crew, I'm like, how do we have the cast announced for this so far in advance, and Skeleton Crew is coming out like late next year, and we still don't know anything about who's in it besides Jude Law? That kind of blows my mind a little bit.
Yeah, none of the kids are out there for the show. Like, and normally, child acting, like the child actors get leaked a lot of times, and none of the kids got leaked yet for the show. Literally, like you said, the only person, I mean, the only adult that's been out there is Jude Law. That's it. Like, I don't know anybody else that's in the series. So it's just like, I don't know. I don't know. That's a whole nother like discussion. I feel like because Skeleton Crew could go. That show could go a million different directions.
Oh yeah. So we got my buddy in here in the chat tonight. His name's Battling Boston's. I know he's going to be very appreciative of me talking about this for at least a few minutes. We have a brand new Star Wars maybe plastic addiction on our hands because we had Atomic Mass Games putting out this random Twitch stream for like 10 minutes on a Tuesday or Wednesday, announcing a new Star Wars miniature game that's going to be a skirmish squad-based game called Star Wars Shatterpoint. It looks like they're going to be brand new models. They're going to be Clone Wars based, and you're going to have kind of like their version of Marvel Crisis Protocol, where it's like you might have a team of like 4 or 5 miniatures. It's like on a much smaller terrain level. Or there's going to be elevation. It uses like cards with your units' powers and abilities. But so far they've announced a whole bevy of different kind of characters, everything from Clone Commandos to Jango Fett to Asajj Ventress, a whole bunch of stuff coming out. It's as he's saying, it's causing a bit of a ruckus in the Legion community because people are like, oh my gosh, is Star Wars Legion gonna die now because Atomic Mass Games can't possibly make 2 Star Wars miniature games ongoing at the same time. It's like, how it is. People tend to kind of just jump ship one extreme to the other. So, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm jumping on board. I have a Facebook group, the unofficial Star Wars Shatterpoint community. I will put it in the chat if you guys want to join. It's up there for us to just hang out and talk the game. So, yeah, that's going to be coming out in June. I don't know any of the details on the actual game mechanics just yet, but yeah, that's something to look forward to. So besides that, we're going to get into our review for Star Wars Andor Season 1, Episode 10. No one's listening. Nope, that was last week. I keep doing that for some reason. Ay. This episode is called One Way Out. How could I forget that? It's so iconic. I feel like that's going to be people walking around conventions saying One Way Out now with like the prisoner suits on.
Yeah.
Like I feel like what could happen. I feel like what could happen now is there's going to be instead of the running of the Wilrow hoods at Celebration, the people running around with the orange jumpsuits and the ice cream makers, there's going to be a legion of people with the prisoner costumes on going one way out, and running around. That would be great.
Man. You'll definitely see people cosplaying and stuff like that for sure, I would say.
Yeah, so let's dive in, Ben, because the majority of this episode is what we expected, right? There's a pretty predictable pattern for the most part with Andor. You have those first 2 episodes in an arc that build it up, and that last one of the arc, the third one, is really the climax where everything just comes crashing down and all the mayhem happens. So we had that marvelous, just show-stopping kind of adrenaline-filled escape, but then you also had some cool stuff happening with Mon Mothma, as well as very interesting rendezvous in the underlevels of Coruscant between Luthen Rael and an Imperial turncoat ISB agent. So what was your initial reaction to this episode?
All right, so of course you have all the stuff with Cassian. That was a lot of fun. Like I said in our group chat, for starters, I really, really liked this episode a lot. Like it was probably my favorite of the series so far. Like this just keeps building, which is good. But for me, the stuff with Cassian was really good. The stuff with Mon Mothma's getting more and more interesting. But man, like the stuff with Luthen, like he is literally like so intense and so over the top. It was kind of making me like nervous and antsy, like him, just the way he was talking. Like, so it just felt like he was, I don't know, it just felt like he was crazy almost, like just the way he was talking to the Imperial guy. Like it literally felt like he was like almost going like mad for the rebellion, you know? Like it just I think that was one of the best scenes we've seen out of all like of Andor so far was that entire sequence because like it was just so uncomfortable watching that scene. Uncomfortable in a good way. But man, like when I was watching that, I was kind of getting the chills. I was like, holy smokes, like this guy is like off his rocker, like way out there.
Yeah.
With his like dedication to the cause. And like but to me, like I said, the overall episode was really, really good. But that was like one of the biggest standouts for me because that was like really over the top.
Yeah, no, I loved it because it shows what the rebellion stands for. Like somebody has to be the crazy one to have
Yeah.
the wherewithal to just sacrifice. Like, yeah, what did you sacrifice? Exactly. Madar 2B is saying in our chat here. That was great for that guy to just straight up like ask him, and he just goes off on him like, "Oh, you want me to tell you? Here's this amazing monologue." Something about the sunrise and being burnt by the sunrise but never getting to see its effects or something like that to that. It was like an incredible thought-provoking line that he had said, and it was, man, Stellan Skarsgård is incredible, man.
Oh, for sure. Like his whole I thought he was gonna kill the guy, honestly, in that that whole scene.
Yeah,
I really thought I was just waiting for it. I was just waiting and waiting, and it didn't happen. But I was waiting for it.
Yeah, because he's trying to get out of there. He's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I have this kid. Things are going to be risky. But Stellan is just risking his life, knowing that he's probably going to die. They're going to link him eventually. He's going to get shot, sharpshooter's going to kill him, or somebody's going to poison him or something. But somebody's got to get the ball rolling, and it's going to be his sacrifice that we're going to look in Return of the Jedi when there's that successful destruction of the Death Star 2 and all that. And we're going to be like, it was because of that guy, Luthen Rael, that all this happened, right? Mon Mothma wouldn't have been in power without him. And it's just great to see the passion. It's great to see like what his intrinsic motives were, because up until this point, we just know he's like a dude, he's just the one in charge. But now we know why, what's in it for him, which is just self-sacrifice.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I thought his whole speech of like self-sacrifice was really good. And then did you hear he even put in like a little jab at the guy, like basically like, they would find like someone else for his like wife and kid, basically, So I thought that was pretty an interesting little jab in there, and I was like, man, that's like really like a lot. So like his acting, of course, like you said, it was so good. Like to me, like I said, it was like uncomfortable. Like the way they shot it, the way it was shot, that entire sequence, like to me was done so well because like I'm not sure about your like viewing of it, Chris, but like for me anyways, like I felt like the way it was shot, we were like in that Imperial officer's like point of view. Like it felt like Luthen was talking to us. So like I don't know, I just thought it was done really, really well. And yeah, I mean it did its job. Like it hit home really well.
This is exact quotes. I burned my decency for someone else's future. I burned my life to make a sunrise I know I'll never see. Like that is just holy crap. That is profound writing, and the execution of that dialogue is just it wins you over. And yeah, I mean it's crazy. Like when you're in war, that's what you do, right? I mean, it's like you're putting yourself out there. You're fighting for your country, so for the people back home to have the freedom and the ability to live their life without danger, right? So that
this is the galaxy, though.
Yeah, this is the entire galaxy that he's talking about.
Yeah, like I loved it. I thought it was done so well. I was happy the Imperial officer made it out because I was like, man, I hope this guy makes it out because I feel like he's gonna get blasted here in about 10 seconds. But yeah, it's gonna be really interesting because I feel like I'm not sure with Tony Gilroy's history. I mean, I've seen the Bourne movies, but like sometimes when you get these like profound monologue speeches, the character gets taken out. So it makes me wonder if he's going to get taken out in the finale. I do
don't
wonder
think he
that.
will.
And then it's just, because we have to be getting, like, some of these characters we know have to be getting killed eventually. I feel like they have to be, because they're not, I mean, it's the whole thing, oh, they're not there during Rogue One, but then again, like, the galaxy's huge, so they don't have to be there during Rogue One. But, like, I feel like Luthen's a character that's got to get taken out eventually. Some of these, like, informants, like the Imperial officers, they got to get taken out eventually, maybe. And then even, as we start to talk more about even, like, the Cassian and Kino stuff, like, I mean, Kino, he's definitely getting taken out, I feel like. Just because it's like, what happened with him when they were doing the prison break thing, he couldn't swim. So, like, what's going to happen with him,
Yeah, so let's dive in, no pun intended, to that whole thing about the Imperial prison, man. And I mean, we had the heist, that was incredible. And now we have something that's equally as awesome. It's just, and this is what it takes, right? You got to have a slow build up to just get the intensity that you want out of a sequence like this, because we get to see those little things pay off, from everything with Andor being so the observation of him going around, like, looking at this guy doing this, and then, like, cutting that pipe. I was like, what is he doing in the previous episode? Is he actually, like, what is that, the point of that? And it's brilliant. All these little things coming together, the perfect plan, the way that he was meticulously spending days and days and days, and this is their only moment, because you have the realization, is, if we didn't hit it home enough last week, about the Empire is more evil than we have ever seen. The fact that they are able to just, like, get somebody to go onto another floor after they've, quote unquote, been released, and then that guy spreads his word, and they're like, okay, we're gonna just kill off all these people. We can't let this word get out. Just kill them all. Makes you understand, like, what are they building? First off, like, it's that bad that they can't let any word go out, but just how they're like cattle. Like, they're just like, yeah, just kill them all. No worries. You're never going to get out of here alive. Sorry. Bye. Like, that was chilling.
Oh, 100%. Like, I think, especially the way this whole prison sequence played out and whatnot, of course we're going to get, like, some type of fallout from, like, the Imperial side of it in the next episode. So it makes you wonder if it's going to be something like you referenced last week, Chris, on, is it going to be like the Imperial officers going like, oh my gosh, like, they were messing up DS1 or something, you know what I mean? Like they were messing with the creation of, like, parts for that. Like, I think we're going to get some type of a subtle reference to it being the Death Star or parts of the Death Star they were working on.
Yeah, so I think this is what Andor, when he does link up with the rebellion, he's going to tell him probably at the end of the season, maybe even, like, if that's how, I feel like that's how the season's going to end, is him joining Stellan Skarsgård, who's going to unite Saul Guerrero's people and Mon Mothma and all them, and that's going to be like, this is the formation of the Rebel Alliance, something like we've seen in, like, Force Unleashed 1 or whatever. But he's going to be like, hey, look, I was on this factory in Arcana 5, and they're definitely building a weapon, and they're not going to know what the weapon is, because they can't know what the weapon is, because they eventually find out in Rogue One. But then Saul's going to get this information. He's radical, and he's going to go out, and as we see him in those Rebel episodes, he will try his best to pinpoint this thing, not knowing exactly what it is he's looking for, although he knows it's a power weapon of some sort. But what did you actually think of the speech that Kino gave with Andy Serkis? What'd you feel about that moment there?
Loved it. I loved it. I thought that was, again, him and Luthen stuff were the shining parts of the episode for me. The Luthen stuff, of course, for the craziness of it, and then Andy Serkis's part of it, or Kino's part of it, because it was so well executed. Like, it was so great on a variety of levels. For one, obviously, like, the buildup of it, like the editing, the way it was cut, like, it had that, like, hell yeah moment. Like, just like it build up and build up and build up and build up. Like, it was done really well in terms of, for us as an audience, for the prisoners. But to me, it was done really well for Kino's character development as well. Because see, I actually replayed that, or I rewound it after he finished it and listened to it again, because you can tell, like, I mean, obviously, like, Andy Serkis is such a good actor, and he plays it off so well from, like, starting, you know, it's the whole, how can I describe it? Like, it's the whole, like, confidence thing. Like, you could tell at first at the start of the speech, he was, like, scared. Like, he was scared and nervous about doing it. And, like, he built up and built up and built up himself more confidence as a character, which is nice, in my opinion, because it shows, it's, like, realistic to us as an audience versus just actors reading lines. You know, just him just going out and reading a speech. You could tell, like, the way he was saying that stuff, like, the beginning parts of the speech, you could tell he was, like, kind of like, whoa, what the hell am I doing here? So, like, by the end of it, like, he was building confidence in himself. And, like, I really, really appreciated, like, Andy Serkis's acting throughout that whole thing.
Oh, yeah. You see, I was like, I don't know what to say. Right? He's like, you're on the air for the entire prison. Thousands of people are listening to your every word. And it's just, it's so triumphant, because you see something like Cassian Andor. I mean, you got to give credit to Diego Luna. His performance, as always, is awesome and great. Because it's like, I'd rather die trying to get out of here than just being killed basically like cattle, right? It's like, I'm gonna die trying. I'd rather die by a blaster shot than just being electrocuted randomly without me even knowing what's happening, right? So you got that whole thing going on. But like, what I got from this is the turning point for Cassian, and being like, this is his moment to be like, I know what to rally behind. I know the Empire's terrible. I'm stuck in here. And that's the first time he really gets the leadership to get this ball rolling and to be having this camaraderie with these other people. Yeah, they're criminals. Maybe. I mean, some of them were thrown there like him, probably, like just wandering the streets. Hey, you looked at me funny, you're going to jail for 6 years, whatever. Like, so it's pretty uplifting in the music. And just, I love whenever you get that kind of monologue and you're seeing things happening over the monologue, like he's like saying like, leave no man behind, and people are just trapped. It's just like, you see the Imperials like cowering behind a closed blast door, and they're just like, yeah, screw that, we're gonna just hide out in here. Like, but it was freaking awesome, without a better word, just saying awesome.
Oh yeah, I loved it. I thought it was so good. You know, like you said, I loved hearing him say like, you know, even if you see like people struggling, you know, don't leave anyone behind, like help every person, blah, 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 like all that stuff. It was just so good. Like I said, I listened to it twice because it was just done. He did it in such a good way. You know, it just, Andy Serkis like shining, and like, see, that shows right there. He needs to have more like live action gigs, because like he can for sure do it. Like he has the range. He has I mean, he's clearly shown the range throughout this series so far.
Yeah, he's definitely got the chops, but yeah, I was a little worried when they jumped off into the water. I had like those, not flashbacks, but I remember hearing about stories of World War II where in the South Pacific, like the ships would go down and the sailors would jump in the water, and there'd be like a shark frenzy that would just like start killing all the people. I was immediately thinking, oh my gosh, like what creatures are in that water, because it looks like it's a far away swim to the land there. At least we see two people. What is that, Melshi alongside of Andor?
Melshi,
that was one?
Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, you see Melshi, you see another one, and like you said, to me, like I'm not doing deep sea ocean swimming in real life, much less swimming in Star Wars with who knows what aliens are in the water. Like there's no shot. Like if I lived in Star Wars as a universe, I'd only swim in pools. Like there's zero shot I'd be swimming in bodies of water in that universe. But like the fact that they're swimming across it, it's like, yeah. And then you got Andy Serkis. He's like, yeah, I'm good. I can't swim. I'll just stay.
But
Like,
that's so heartbreaking
um,
because at that moment, like
yep.
I've watched that thing multiple times because he's saying he couldn't really hear him. So Andor's like saying it louder in the middle of him saying it for the second time. He gets like pushed off. Like I'm like trying to understand
Yeah.
like what would happen if he was able to like stand. He's gonna have to jump. I mean, there's no way out of there. Like that thing's gonna crash eventually. Like they took down the power. So, but it was on auxiliary
Well,
power.
well, they took down the power. Like I said, it was on auxiliary power, but they took it down, I think. But the thing is, even if it doesn't, are we gonna see? What makes me nervous is like after this again, just like Luthen. Actually, that kind of connects to my Luthen point. Andy Serkis gives this awesome speech. Is remember, there's he's still on that thing with all the Imperial officers that were left behind, like, and they clearly heard him talking over the speaker, so they'll know who it is. So are they going to get him, and are we going to see him getting interrogated by like Deidre or something?
I I hate to
Like,
say this,
I
but
don't know.
I think he's going to be dead off camera. I think we're just assuming that not everybody was able to swim all the way out there. And
Yep.
even though they said like, "Hey, you got to help everybody," but then when they said that in the actual episode, in the monologue, he's saying that, and there's somebody that like trips over somebody else, and it looks like somebody got trampled. So that kind of lead me to believe like these guys are just out for their own lives. Like they're gonna go, and if that guy's drowning, they're gonna swim right by him. It's like, oh, it's terrible to think about, but oh, I think that's the way it's gonna go.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely interested to see, because I think there's a chance too for this coming episode. I think if he's not dead off camera, I think we just get like a cold open cut, like to him, like the fallout of this, like him there, at that factory. Like I think there's a chance we get that with the Imperials like closing in on him and basically being like, "Hey, let's talk." Like,
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
because there has to be some type of there's of course going to be some type of consequences to them breaking out, because like you mentioned last week, Chris, like when they break out, the Empire has to freak out, because they're like, "Oh no, our info on whatever we're building is getting out there."
Oh
And it would
yeah.
ruin it would ruin the plans, like, cuz say what you want, about like the Emperor and stuff. Like obviously like Cassian and all these people, they don't know they're building a Death Star, like a planet destroyer. But like if they knew it was like a big, like that magnitude of a thing, like the galaxy, in theory at this point, they could still probably overthrow the Emperor, like as a whole, because they could rally a lot of the planets. Like at this point, the galaxy's still not 100% with the Empire yet.
Yeah, I feel like I guess it's a little bit like World War II in Germany, right? It's like
Yep.
you had a finite amount of people. If you got everybody in the world to attack this one nation, like you think that your numbers would be enough to just overtake them, but
Yeah.
obviously that war went on for several years, and it wasn't as easy as just painting by the numbers there. But yeah,
Yeah.
so that's the obvious thing is like, yeah, if they didn't have the Death Star, he's not standing on the Death Star. Everybody's swamping the Coruscant, but it's not that easy because people are fearing them, and that's the thing is the Empire
Yep.
leads by fear. Let's talk about Mon Mothma. Let's switch gears to Mon Mothma. She meets with this guy that's also from Chandrilla, and he's the mobster, from what I mean. He's getting his money from unsavory means. She doesn't really want to do that. Her advisor, not her advisor, but her previous attachment, if you will, because I'm pretty sure that they were a thing at some point, it seems like.
Yep.
He's the banker or whatever that's giving her the money. So, but he's mentioning this unsavory fellow that he wants to do this deal if everybody needs something. He doesn't care about money. Apparently, he wants to have an arranged marriage with his son to her daughter. Apparently, and that's like giving her flashbacks, and that's actually like giving not flashbacks, but like trauma, a little mental trauma, because as we've been seeing through each episodes, she doesn't have the best relationship with her and Perrin. Perrin are an arranged marriage, so she's thinking, oh my gosh, this cycle is going to be continuing with my own daughter. I'm so unhappy in my current marriage. I can't imagine my own daughter having to go through what I'm going through right now. So she's straight up, this is the choices you have to make. And this is what's so good about this show, is that it forces these tough, difficult decisions on these characters that are going to have far wide ramifications. If you don't do it, then you're not going to have the money to support. But it's like, you have to do the lesser evil, whatever. It's like, it's very curious. What do you think about this whole sequence with Mon Mothma?
Well, for starters, the actor who played the mobster guy, great acting. Like, that was on point, exactly what I'd imagined from like that type of a character. Like, he nailed the acting. So like, hats off to him. And then as for like the whole conversation, I was like, at first when he said like not money, I was like, oh, is this going to be he wants to be in a relationship with Mon Mothma or something, something like that. And then he said her daughter and his son. I was like, oh man, so we're going like Game of Thrones style here.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really interesting. And I do think though, like, all right, so I've talked about it many, many times leading up to this over these past few weeks. Like, Mon Mothma has to get to like that push-off point. Like, I think she's contemplating this, and her push-off point is going to be doing this arranged marriage thing. Like, I think that could be maybe her thing, just because like the way she like declined it and like the way they shot it, it was weird. Mm-hmm. It was made. I mean, they could be tricking us with the way they shot it, but they definitely shot it in a way to make it seem like she was contemplating it. So you have that. And then, I just had a little laugh about it. I was like, man, like, they definitely have a little bit older of an actress, like maybe like 17 or 18, playing a 13-year-old. I thought that was a little funny, playing her daughter. But yeah, I just think they introduced a new challenge to Mon. All these characters are having their character moments. Like, you have Luthen dealing with his stuff. You have Andy Serkis dealing with his stuff. You have Cassian dealing with his. And, we haven't got back to Mon Mothma. Like, what's she going to have to deal with? And now we're finally here. And, her big, what's the old saying? Like, the come to Jesus moment is basically like, all right, are you going to, like, basically do this arranged marriage for your daughter? Or you're not going to get help with the rebellion? So, like, I think this is her, like, come to Jesus moment. Like, it's like, all right, what are we doing here?
Yeah, this is we got 2 episodes left. So these last 2 episodes, is from what I've seen before, it's like they're part 1, part 2. Obviously, going to be leading somewhere. So yeah, we're dealing with the formation of the rebellion from a fun standpoint. What's this money going to do? There's this operation on Steer Garden. I guess that's not happening now because the guy got killed and then they faked his death from some kind of like carbon poisoning out of hyperspace or something like that. We know there's space battles coming because we see Luthen's ship, the Fondor, which is doing that spin lightsaber trick, killing TIE fighters. So that's coming up. We got, oh man, this is very curious. I wish they would just do a 2-episode finale, dang it.
Yeah, I mean, I would take that at this point. Like, that would be a lot of fun.
Right, we get these 2-3 episode premieres. Let's get a 2-episode finale for a change. Switch it up.
Yeah. Or not even 2 episodes. Just make it one long hour and 40-minute thing.
Yeah, that's one way of doing it. Oh, man. But yeah, I mean, is there anything else notable from this episode that you want to mention about, the prison? One thing, I made a video about this, going back to the first Pact. I have a couple different things, but the first thing is like that could have been a level 1313. I made a video about this. That was the first time we've seen Coruscant's underworld in live action since like Attack of the Clones. Now we've seen it in Clone Wars. That's it. We got that canceled video game that was going to be about Boba Fett hunting down his armor and all. So I was jazzed to see the Coruscant underworld because it also calls back to the unused footage of the test footage of that George Lucas show that never got off the ground, Star Wars Underworld, back in the mid-2000s. He just didn't have the money or the means of tech to easily, cheaply produce this thing. It's kind of the same vibe I was getting. I was like, yes, like this is fantastic. I remember talking about in the lead up to this show that we might see an underworld of the Coruscant, and in fact, we did. I probably won't see any more of it, at least for this season, but I got what I wanted there, so I was happy. Seeing a lot of cool aliens, a lot of interesting ambiance, the neon, a lot of smoke and steam. It's just freaking great.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I feel like we wrapped, even though it was quick, we wrapped up the underworld part of this season. I do think we'll get that next season, though, because, they already talked about how next season's broken up into arcs that are for years, not just the current time period. Like, 3 episodes is year 1 or 2, episodes 4, 5, and 6 are like 2 and 3, and then the final ones are leading into Rogue One. So I feel like one of those arcs maybe next year might be more like underworldy, since it was so quick. Like, in the way this show is going, I don't see us having another meeting or thing like that, because like the point of like that whole meeting with Luthen, it was kind of like us seeing his side of it, us kind of getting a hint there's an extreme side of the rebellion, and then they're going to move on from it, and then we may see it actually play out. Like, now that we have the hint, like the subconscious hint, now it's like we're going to see it play out in the final couple episodes, I think.
Yeah, I could see if you look, I would love to see Mandalorian tackle the Coruscant underworld, right? This was a big cut moment from The Rise of Skywalker by Colin Trevorrow's, what is it called? The script, Duel of the Fates, right? That was
Duel of the Fates.
Big moments at the end of that film that were going to be based on the underworld of Coruscant. I want to see Mando go there for some reason. At that point, that place is going to be, not even the capital. Obviously, it's not going to be the capital of the galaxy anymore. It's probably going to fall into disarray. We know nothing about that location after, like, aftermath in the Star Wars publishing realm of things, canon. So, very cool there. I have a couple just little random stuff I seen that were kind of entertaining here. First one being, we got a reference to Han Solo being let out of carbonite on that little hovering table. We've seen poor Olaf being zipped in a body bag, which was another first for Star Wars. I'm pretty sure we never seen somebody's body being zipped up in a body bag in the galaxy far, far away, and then being floated past all the prisoners. Like, they all see this guy. It's like, what in the world happened? And I think that's going to be one of the things that helped probably get these guys on board with Rebellion. It's like, oh yeah, one of us just died. I think this is legit. Let's follow this guy named Clem or Kif or whatever his name is at that point. So that was something I noticed right off the bat at 5 a.m. when I was watching this episode. I was sharp enough to at least pick that out.
Oh yeah, that was definitely a good kind of like breaking point for the prisoners, I would say, to like help them do it, because you could have easily gone into a whole prison moment like this and like have Andy Serkis give the speech and everyone be like, nah, we're good. We'll just stay. Like, so it's good that it worked.
Yeah, another one I have is just the cinematography of the prison, and when they escape, they do this faraway shot of Narcana 5's prison building, and it basically is reminiscent of the Imperial cog symbol, which I thought was a really nice touch. It wasn't exactly like it, but if you are in the know like we are here, or those of us watching, listening, you're gonna be like an instantly identifiable object is like, yeah, that's the sign of the Empire, and these people are escaping out of the Empire into the galaxy, which is a really cool symbolism right there.
Oh yeah, for sure. I noticed that as well. Like, I thought that was really good. It was really nice, like, symbolism without like hitting you on the head with it. I do feel like, though, I mentioned it last week, jokingly, but it is true. I think me watching the show at like 7, 8 a.m. is better for my critiquing than it is at 3 a.m. I can say that because I'm really enjoying this show a lot now that I'm not like dead tired. So there's that.
Yeah, I've been meaning to watch these more than once, but I'm actually
Yep.
gonna enjoy watching, I think, from episode 6 to the end in like a good weekend. Just watching it all in one breath as like a binge sort of thing. So that's what I'm waiting. That's what I'm waiting for so far. Because I've been busy otherwise, so I haven't really had time to fit it in like I normally would be doing. But yeah, I think that about does it for what I have to say about the episode. I guess we'll just wrap things up and give it a good old score out of 10 here. I'll throw it to you first, Ben.
Yeah, I would say for me, like I mentioned throughout this whole review, I thought the episode was really well done. It was my favorite of the series so far because like the many things you mentioned, like for me the highlights of the episode really were obviously Luthen. Like Luthen's stuff was just so like I don't know, it was just so unsettling for me watching that scene. Like it really was in a good way, of course, but it was like unsettling. It did its job. Like I really liked that scene a lot actually. And then the Andy Serkis speech I thought was phenomenal. Like it was just one of those like awesome like kind of motivational things. Like I thought that was done really well. And then of course the cinematography throughout the episode. As you just mentioned, like from outside the prison, that was awesome. And then like the editing through the episode was done really well. Like so, you briefly touched on it, but during the speech of Andy Serkis, like versus just watching him give the speech, we were like having his voiceover over like we were seeing like things happening with his voiceover, which is nice. It's always good when we get stuff like that in movies or shows. And then yeah, I mean, like, of course, the Mon Mothma stuff was great, but I think the Luthen stuff and the prison stuff by far was the best parts of the episode. But the Mon Mothma stuff was still really good in terms of just introducing a new. She has to have some type of like a foe basically. Like, and the foe for her is like she's having to make these like really tough decisions, and this one, is going to come down to her daughter. Whether she has to basically like put her in an arranged marriage or not. So like, I thought that was done really well, giving her some type of conflict. So for me overall, I would say with all that in mind, like I mentioned before, this is my favorite episode of the series. I would have to give it a 9 out of 10.
Wow, 9 out of 10. Solid. And yeah, I'm going to echo everything you said, everything. I'm broken record when it comes to these. I got to do better recaps because I'm always like, oh, echo what I said. But, we were pretty concise, I feel like, on our appreciation of this episode tonight because while it was a prison break, we got more than what I expected, right? We got this awesome stuff with Mon Mothma, really getting into the layers of her character, giving us her background because it wasn't really spelled out to us quite so much about what her past was, but this one definitely gives us her motivation, what she's after, the price she has to pay for this rebellion. Remember, we've seen her before, how she was just giving money, and then next thing you know, the whole thing on Aldani happens, and she didn't intend for that to happen, but she's in too deep. And now we see her getting in too deep again with these unsavory people having to make this thing, not for herself, but a sacrifice for her daughter. And then just seeing everything with the rebellion coming to life for the first time through this prison. We get to see this actual uprising. I think word of this is going to get out and going to spread across the galaxy like Edward Bridger's call to help. And that's also going to help incite these people to start becoming brave and standing out against the crowd. And then, of course, we keep repeating it here. Luthen Rail talking to the ISB officer and just spelling out why people have to do what they do to get a revolution to get started. I'm going to repeat what you just said for your score. I'm also going to give it a 9 out of 10. I feel like every episode I've probably given at least a 9 out of 10. I'm holding my 10 out of 10 for either next week or the week after when I know this stuff is going to hit an all-time high. So there you go. That was our review. What do you guys think? Let us know even after the fact. You can send us a message on Twitter or just go ahead and email us or whatever you want to do to get the word out. We want to hear what your score was out of 10. We got Dark Nerdy Gonzo, Andy Serkis, and Stellan Skarsgård performance nailed it again, smashingly. This episode was another 9 out of 10. There we go. We have Rayside She's here. Hannah's here in the channel in this stream watching us. You can watch her awesome appearance on last week's episode or listen to it. So thanks there. And Madara 2B is just going along with our chat. We're having great engagement as we always do. And we love you guys to be here joining us as we do every Friday at 9 o'clock. But that is going to do it for us. We're going to wrap things up here. Ben, what are you going to be doing this week? Where can people find you?
I am going to be trying to figure out my new iPhone over the weekend. That'll probably be the main thing I'm working on, actually.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm just going to be like catching up on shows, probably watch a movie or two. I think Nope is coming to streaming really soon, so I might watch that if that's out over the weekend. And then that's all I'll be up to. And then of course working out. Like I mentioned in the opening, I'm slowly dieting, working out, lifting, all that sort of good stuff. So just trying to stay consistent with that. So I'll be doing that, talking sports, posting on Instagram and Twitter. And speaking of those, you guys can find me at Real Ben Maynard on Twitter and Instagram. And then for Milton's as well, Milton, he'll post sports stuff on his Twitter. You can find his Twitter, it's Milton Weber and then the number 7. And then his Instagram, he posts all of his fitness stuff as well. It's just Milton, the number 7, and then Weber.
There you go. He couldn't be with us tonight, but he will be with us next week. He also loved this episode, so we'll hear a little bit from him next week about his thoughts on that. As far as me, I'm going to be basically back into my good old days of playing World of Warcraft. I'm trying to catch up before the expansion comes out. There's a new race class coming out, the Drakthir Evoker, next week, so I'm trying to catch up on all that content, doing some raids, getting the story there. So we're gonna be playing more of WoW this week, and seeing Black Panther on Monday. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing Wakanda Forever. I've seen it's getting really great reviews, and from what people have been saying, it's probably the best movie next to Spider-Man No Way Home for Phase 4 so far. So looking forward to seeing how Phase 4 comes to a close. Nice. Yes, I will be posting my comic book reviews this week. If any gigantic news happens, I will try my best to get a short little video talking about it. We'll see what happens this week as things randomly happen as they do. But enough of that. That's going to do it for me and Ben for Star Wars, the Outer Rim Transmission. This was episode number 82. Thanks to everybody in the chat. We had Dark Nerdy Gonzo. We had the Race Side, Madara 2B. We had Battling Boston's. We had, we had Aaron Daly. We had Kamel. So thanks everybody for joining us. You can join us next Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern. We'd love to have you guys in the chat hanging out with us. Until next time, that's going to do it for us here. Have a wonderful week. May the Force be with you in transmission. All right.